Welcome to Industry Matters Unfiltered, a pod and videocast focused on conversations about leadership, innovation, and real-life challenges in our industry. I am Lindy Tentinger, president of VGM Associates, and I'll be your host. This show aims to connect industry leaders and share insights beyond just business topics. So grab a coffee, or my personal favorite, a Diet Coke, and sit down with us as we have real conversations, unfiltered conversations with key leaders in our industry. And welcome to our very first episode of Industry Matters Unfiltered. Today I'm here with my friend and fellow leader in the HME space, Ike. I feel like he doesn't need an introduction, but on the chance you don't know him, Ike, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, there's tons of people that don't know me, Lindy, but hey, thanks for being here. Excited about our first episode. I'm Ike Isaacson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Government and Regulatory Relations at VGM. It's a super long title. My business cards look like those fake checks that they give out after golf tournaments to the winners. But you and I have been in this industry for quite some time now, Lindy. We've been friends even longer than that. And so you and I have shared tons of conversations about our families, about business here at VGM, about leadership, all kinds of things. So I guess we kind of got together and thought, why not bring those conversations out in the open and have them with all of our listeners?
Right. I mean, whether you really want to hear it or not, this is what we're going to do. But really wanted to bring you a series that's regular, consistent, and more than just home medical equipment or CRT or OMP or wellness. It's really about all the people that are behind it, behind your businesses, the leaders, the caregivers, the innovators, the real life stuff we all navigate while we're just trying to make an impact every day.
Yeah, no, so just not another industry podcast or industry videocast, I guess, in this case. But yeah, so I guess since it's our first one, we've kind of said who we are. To kick it off, why don't we just share a little bit about why this matters to us and maybe why we want to do it. Lindy, do you want to start us?
I sure will. So Ike, as you know, I grew up in a small town, Denver, Iowa, which I'll let you talk a little bit more about also as you're introducing yourself. But my family there owned a business. We owned a business called Denver Electric. And that really shaped almost everything that I am in the business world, came from the experience of growing up. And customer service and servant leadership, they weren't just buzzwords. And whether I liked it or not growing up, it was just how we lived. So there were certain things that because we had a small business, we couldn't do in a small town, or we didn't say in a small town, or, we kept a low profile in a small town. And it was all because of our customers. And my parents showed me that from a really, really young age. So you fast forward to today, I'm a business leader, but I'm also just a person, a whole regular person who has been divorced, who is remarried in a blended family. And we have kids, and I say kids in quote because one of them is 21, but they range in age from 21 to 3. Oh. So life for me is, life. I life it a lot, and I fake it a lot in my life just to make it. But we have 2 in high school this year, a senior and a junior. And in a couple weeks here, I'm going to have a special drop off to 3-year-old preschool. So I'm navigating a lot of the same challenges that everyone is. And this is really just a space to be real, to talk about what's working, what's not working, and just how we keep showing up in life, no matter what it throws us.
Yeah, the stuff that we don't talk about a ton when we're at work, right? But it's such a component of who we are and what we bring to the job every day, to our relationships, and really, like you said, to our leadership styles, right? Like we all have all of this chaos happening outside of work. And so that transition into work, which can be just as chaotic, right? But it really informs who we are and how we show up every day. You're absolutely right. And yeah, that Denver connection. So I didn't have a businessman. I'm the son of a preacher man. And a nurse growing up all over the Midwest. My dad went back to school when I was 10 years old to become a Lutheran minister. And that started us bouncing around and brought me to Iowa for high school. From there, it came down to the Cedar Falls, kind of close to our VGM headquarters here, for college, and fell in love with the place and fell in love with the community and just decided to stay. And so part of that love I had for the community, I wanted to return. So I started out in the nonprofit world. And was leading a lot of community-based service organizations, doing a lot of work locally, and that kind of grew to statewide, and that grew to national. And then quite honestly, I started opening my mouth at like public forums and town halls with legislators and started making a little bit of noise in that space, and ended up down in Des Moines doing some work. And that just kind of started my advocacy journey, my leadership journey, and really my love of supporting communities and giving back and getting people the things they need so they can live where they want to, be closer to family. But yeah, about 25 years ago now, I moved to Denver, Iowa, the mile wide city. It is literally a mile wide square. And quite honestly, got to know the other people in your family even sooner than I got to meet you. I happened to be fortunate. I was the mayor of the town for about 8 years. And during that time, your dad was transitioning out of his business. And we're like, hey, Spark, come here. Let's work on some city stuff. So he came to work. And then later in life, had the chance to work with your brother as well. So I'm just kind of making the circuit. I think your mom might have watched my kids at the daycare in town for a little bit. So I've got the whole family in my background. But quite honestly, that's why I think this podcast and doing this with you is going to be fun, is because those relationships that we've all developed across the country with our next door neighbors, or whether it be a state away or a whole country away, are really what makes this industry so much fun, even when it's so challenging, is because we've got people with like experiences and like challenges. And so for me, it's about the connection. It's always been about the connection, whether I'm doing high school football coaching or rugby coaching, or whether I'm working to help my neighbors and such, because, we've both seen kind of that leadership role can be a little isolating. It can start to feel like you're kind of out there on an island. And that's where these connections, and really what VGM really, really wants to promote, is that together we can succeed, together we can do these things. So, but because that way we can open up, right? We've got wins, we've got failures, and it just creates a safe place, I guess. And we'll talk about a lot of those things, a place for other people to share and have a normal experience with all of those things that's going on.
Yeah, for sure. No, I hear you. And this industry, from being in a lot of other industry verticals that I've been in, I mean, there's something special here that I guess unless you've been out of it, you don't really know. But the relationships and the sharing and the traveling that people do together, and in a way that builds trust, so that you can kind of tear walls down and have real conversations, it actually is very, very unique, and something that I hope you all hold near and dear to your hearts, because you've got a place to turn at any point in your business, at any point in your life, to people that have probably been in somewhat of a similar situation, or just have really good listening ears to help you through it. So we're here to do just that, kind of in a monthly series, and I hope that it matters and it has a positive impact on anyone that's listening, and anyone that has questions in life or at work or with people. I mean, one thing that we all have in common is people. That there's a big people component in everything that we do. So understanding people, knowing people, being able to listen and ask the right questions is just really, really important in life in general. But let's go ahead and talk shop for a few minutes, since we are in HME, but we're in not just a moment of transformation. I feel like it's been a decades of transformation, because things continue to hit. But really we're continuing this shift as transactional to becoming, very critical when it comes to the care continuum and in patient care and the service that's needed for someone in their daily life. So, that shift's really being driven by a few key forces. And I'd love if you would give an update from your perspective on everything that's going on, what, the good, the bad, the ugly, what we know, what we don't know. I know there's a lot more that we don't know than we know, but we're here to report it all.
That's right. And I don't know if I can we're not going to go dive in really super deep into this. We're going to talk about different resources and different things that are going on. And obviously, if this is a great time to lean into the VGMs, your state associations, where we're getting into the nuts and the bolts of what is happening. But yeah, I mean, you talked about all of the transition. And I like the word transition versus challenge versus headwind, because, you go all the way back when we were doing the competitive bid thing in 2013, 2015, and all the chaos that came with that. And man, this industry just stepped up and rolled up our sleeves and went to work and made it through and, came out the other side, maybe in some ways, better able to use data, better understanding of our business, better idea of our pricing and those kinds of things. And for that challenge and for overcoming that challenge, we were rewarded with COVID. COVID happened, right? And those same people, once again, we rolled up our sleeves. I'm hearing stories when I'm out and around the country of people like taking boats into houses and four-wheelers and horseback and all those things because other people wouldn't go to the door. But man, the DME industry, the HME industry was right there and keeping people out of the hospitals that were overburdened and keeping people from going to the hospitals and all those kinds of things. And just super big champions of the industry, champions of people. And we came through that and we were rewarded with a reduction in Medicare rates in that 75-25, that non-rural blended Medicare rate. And we continue to fight on that. That's a huge topic right now. HR 2005 is huge. I just looked. We've got about 20 some co-sponsors on that. I'm going to be coming to a state association near you, really promoting the idea of reaching out to your legislator, regardless if they're on the right committee or not. Go talk to them. But so we get through that. We're figuring that out. And then we get rewarded with tariffs. And we're still figuring out how we're playing in that tariff world and figuring out what the impacts are. Some people have felt it, some people haven't, but it's just that cloud kind of hanging there. But we're persevering. We're continuing to do the work. We're continuing to get better. To be rewarded with, we're staring down the barrel of another round of competitive bidding, and we can talk about that until the cows come home. But there's going to be a ton of stuff with that. That's one of those things. Don't have a ton of information about it. But we're putting together talking points. We know that we need to comment on it. And by we, I mean everybody needs to comment on that by August 29th. I know that our friends at A Home Care are pushing some stuff out. We've pushed some stuff out. CQRC has pushed. It's a big collaborative effort because this is the big issue for our industry once again. But given our history of rolling up our sleeves, given our history of battling through challenges, given our history to leaning in and coming together in forums such as VGM, Home Care State Association, CQRC, all these various places where we come together and commiserate, challenge each other, new ideas, all those things. It is a challenge, but it's an opportunity to continue to show the value and the worth of what it is that we're doing each and every day. And I think we've got to take advantage of that and really show our legislators, show the administration, show our neighbors in our communities the impact that we have on our overall health and overall happiness.
So true. If those stories aren't getting out there, no one knows. Because really, until something impacts you personally, you don't know. And maybe we don't want to know, but at some point in our lives it will impact all of us, the care that we need from this industry and from the wonderful providers that are in the tiniest little parts of our country to the biggest cities in our country. And that's a huge part of the mission and vision of VGM is to really amplify the stories so that way we all continue to stay relevant and part of this continuum. But we can't do that without amplifying the stories, and the stories are out there.
Oh, 100%. And if you've listened to me speak out in the community or out and around the States lately, I've added a new line to what I'm talking about, but it's super true. There's a lot of change happening, and there's a lot of things that we're going to have to do differently, maybe better. But very honestly, if you don't like change, you use the word, you're going to hate being irrelevant, right? Because again, we said we're going to be real in this podcast, right, Lindy?
Yeah.
Right? Like if we bury our heads in the sand, if we think somebody else is going to take care of it, if we think, oh, that's not going to affect me, that's not a job for me, we're going to be in a lot of trouble because there's still big challenges. I mean, reimbursement pressures are not going away. Audits are still a huge pain point for a lot of our folks. Supply chain volatility with the tariffs, with just supply shortages. I don't think we've ever fully recovered from the chaos that was COVID. We're still all navigating those things. But what I am encouraged about, and I said this before, that is the resiliency of this industry. We've seen it happen time and time again. And the emails that I'm getting are heartening, very honestly, because there's just a touch of anger. And I know that sounds weird to say, that's heartening, but man, like,
Fire. It's
yeah,
fire.
like it's this energy around it of, okay,
Yep.
let's go to work, let's get to work, because we've been through a lot, right? We've
Mhm.
been through a lot, but we keep showing up and we keep going after it. In fact, we just put out a new kind of an advocacy guide. For Champions of Change. If you go to the VGM Government website, you can click into that link, and it's going to give you everything you need to actively engage with your local legislators, state, and federal. It's just kind of a guidebook, a plug and play, if you will, to just kind of take some of the mystery out of it, or maybe some of the anxiety out of it. We're going to give you everything you need, because this is the time to kind of use maybe a little of that frustration, and vent it in a really positive way of saying, all right, enough. I'm going to get involved now, because that's what's going to be the key to getting through the headwinds and coming out like we always have on the other side of successes.
Yeah, definitely. Think about grassroots. It really
Mm-hmm.
starts at every single level. And it reminds me in business when we tell people we're all salespeople, and like people that
Yeah.
aren't salespeople don't want to hear that. But really, we're all advocates too.
Yeah.
And we're all selling this industry for the patients and for the care. And through what we know inside is such an experience that can't be taken away from the continuum. In fact, it should grow, if anything. So this
Mm-hmm.
toolkit is awesome. When I looked at it and read it, I was like, yeah, yes, go take this, use it, and run and run and run and tell your stories all day long, because we need every single one of you to be part of this movement. Speaking of movement, I talk about that
Yeah.
video of the crazy guy,
Of the crazy guy.
the crazy dancing guy.
Oh my
He
gosh.
created a
Yes. I'm so
movement.
sorry. Yeah. We're
Yes.
on the same page. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's an amazing video, man. And hopefully we can figure out a way to link it. I don't know. There's smarter people
Yeah,
than we
maybe we
are
can do that.
that are behind the scenes on this. But yeah, like, so there's this big music festival, right? And there's this dude out in the middle of it. He doesn't have a shirt on. And he is, I don't know if you've ever watched Seinfeld, but right. Like when Elaine, when she would start to dance, right? Like, just crazy dancing guy. And at first everybody's kind of making fun of him, and everybody thinks it's hilarious, right? But then all of a sudden, this one dude's like, you know what? I'm going to go dance with him, right? That first follower comes along with that leader and starts dancing and going to town. And pretty soon, like, other people are like, oh, hey, maybe it's okay to do that and to let loose a little bit. And then they start coming in 3 and 4. And over the course of this video, all of a sudden, the entire music festivals, tens of thousands of people are all dancing around this guy and just having an amazing time. And it's such a cool corollary between what we're trying to do, right? Because we've got people that are out pushing, and they're important, right? They make you, they set an example. But until we start getting that person that maybe is a little more reserved, right? That first follower to step up and do their thing. And now it makes it okay for other people to do it. Cause like, wow, they weren't really into that, and now they're doing it. Man, that champion of change, right? Every single one we get on that board, and every single medallion we give out, it just grows into this critical mass until they have to listen, right? Because they see the passion, they see the power, and they see the forces behind such a massive group of people mobilizing towards the same goal. So yeah, the crazy dancing guy is a great analogy in this situation. We need more people
and don't
stepping
think
up.
about that guy as Ike. That's
Yeah,
so not right.
no, that is not going to
Not
happen.
at all.
Well, plus, because I got moves, like I can actually dance, and so that would be a beside.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You definitely have moves. But really, I mean, the first follower, we are seeing a generational shift in leadership. There's this new wave of leaders coming in. I think you're talking about that fire, that passion, the energy, but we do have people who are thinking differently about culture, technology, leaning into that, not only when it comes to efficiency, but when it comes to patient care and experience, and really just overall what it means to lead in healthcare. It's exciting to me, and I'm sure it's exciting to you too, but it means that, we really need to be intentional about everything that we do, whether it's mentorship or succession planning or just building bridges between experience and innovation. That's really where we're at. And companies that get there and leaders that get there are going to light the way and be ahead.
Yeah, and you use such an important phrase, Lindy, like that intentional leadership. That landscape is shifting. We talk all the times about, generations, and we define generations, and we throw these blankets of definition over generations. But at the end of the day, we can't forget, again, being real, like the workforce challenge isn't going away. We're still struggling to recruit. We're still struggling to retain. That's one of the biggest challenges we hear about on a daily basis, pretty much. So it's an opportunity for that intentional leader, that purposeful leader to really step up, because people want to work for companies that they know care about them, right? And that where their values align, where it's not just about profits, right? But it's about people. And very honestly, the best way to generate solid profit, solid revenue is to have great staff that are engaged, that are cared about, that are focused, that want to be there, that buy into the mission. That's its whole podcast episode all on its own. And we're going to hit that, I can guarantee you, because that's where that leadership really comes into play. No longer is it go do that because I said so. Right? Even in my coaching world of over 25 years, that's changed. The first couple of years, if I told a kid to run, he'd just say, yes, sir, how far? Right? Now it's like, well, why? What did I do? What's the point of running? What if I just do this? What about this instead? Right? It's the same thing with our employees, right? It's like they have to buy into the mission. They have to buy into the why, and they have to buy into you as a leader. So yeah, leadership is more important now than it ever has been in the past.
Yeah, I agree. And whether you're a provider, a manufacturer, distributor, or leader in any part of this ecosystem, in this healthcare continuum, it's a moment to lean in to each other, to your staff, to yourself. I think sometimes we're not even real with ourselves. And I think if we start there, we become better people. But now's the time to innovate, collaborate, and really lead with that impact. We're going to just talk real quickly about just leadership in life to maybe leave you on a cliffhanger for our next episode. So that way you'll come back and watch us some more. But, Ike, I'd love for you to, give an update inside that brain of yours and what's been on your mind and, what you've been up to when it comes to yourself and your leadership and your people.
Yeah. It's always been, that piece of it is always so important to me, is like, how do you maintain your own personal integrity? How do you fill your bucket? How do you keep promoting and pushing yourself? Not for the sake of more money or for the sake of more praise or a different title. I'm not talking about climbing the ladder. Just what am I doing to make sure that I can be the best for everybody that I engage with every day? And one of the exciting things, I just finished it, but I spent a cool journey on a professional executive coaching course. VGM was so generous to let me spend some time into that. And it just opened up my eyes to maybe some places where I was falling short, or some things that I hadn't thought about. It was a lot of deep dive self-awareness stuff, which is, quite honestly, you said what's going on in my brain. That can be a scary question sometimes, right? But diving into that, and it really has put a focus back. I said it earlier, leadership to me isn't a title. It's not a position on an org chart. It's not an accolade that you get. It's about how you're treating yourself and each other and the people around you, your family, your coworkers, your friends, your community, in an intentional, meaningful way. And we each have an opportunity to show up for every occurrence, however we want to, for every situation. And are we being mindful of that? Or are we just going through the motions? And so it's really put a fine note on that. And it's something that I'm starting to share more and more, working with folks, not only within VGM, but also outside of our walls, because I'm super passionate about it. I love the government stuff, and I will fight as long as I have to protect this industry. Yes. but man, having that other piece of it and helping to get other people thinking along those lines is super, super cool. I don't know if that was a little longer than it probably should have been, Lindy, but what about you? What do you got going on?
No. Well, first of all, I love that. I love that for you. And I love that for people that you'll touch along the way. And that's really, that's the definition of a true leader. Also, you don't want to read my mind. And my husband reminds me of that every day, because he says, no, don't even think that I want to read your mind, let alone can I. But you touched on leadership being so much more than, anything else that we might put on paper. One thing that I've thought about recently as a leader is the seeds that we might plant for people, or the trees that might grow from those seeds. As leaders, we may never see the impact. We may never see who that touches, who grows from that. And that's what it is. It's wanting that next level to grow and to be their best selves and get to the next level, not only in business or whatever their
Mhm.
job is, but in life. And if we all show up that way, knowing that I'm doing things and planting seeds for people I may never know in my life or in my career, but that's what my mission is. I think that, man, we would have an amazing world and an amazing country. But that's really what I think of when I think about leadership, not only at work, but at home. And it is also letting people come up and be real and make mistakes. And I think that's probably one thing that I've learned most as a mom, as my kids have gotten older. And
Mhm.
I know you echo me in this, but
Mhm.
at some point you need to kind of let them fly, and you can't be there making every decision for them, even though sometimes we look at the decisions that we're making and it might not be what we would make now. I'm sure
Right.
my parents felt the same way about me, because I can look back and be like, whoa, they had a lot of grace for me when I made that decision and I thought I knew everything. So I think that's just where we get to show up and help people, but we guide them. We let them make mistakes. We let them stand back up and learn from those mistakes, because that's the only way that, you and I have gotten to be better
Sure.
in anything that we do, is because I've made a ton of mistakes. And so at the end of the day, it's really just helping people get through whatever it is, whatever circumstance that they're getting through, is helping them through it. People have really been on my mind recently. Clarity, I guess, if I had one
Mhm.
word to kind of sum up the peopleness in my mind, it's around clarity and really stripping back everything else, all the different nuances that are in our mind, all the different ways that we show up, and just be clear and simple. I think in today's world, breaking through the clutter with just the simplest of messages, the simplest of expectations, just wondering if people do know the simple. I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we forget that people might not. And so I've really tried to peel back the onion myself on the simplest of simple. What is it that I need to do today? What is it that you need to do today? And get it down
Mhm.
to just the simplest sound bites and start there. And then just making sure we're giving that simple feedback back to people, because I think so much gets lost in translation that sometimes we really do make a lot of assumptions in life of what, we think or what other people think, in terms of decisions or performance or whatever that might be. I'm really, really trying my hardest to be the leader that shows up, that's real, that has a hard conversation, that holds up the mirror, that speaks the truth, because it's a lot harder to be that leader than to be the leader that doesn't.
100%. Absolutely. And those are some of the things we're going to continue to talk about,
Yeah.
right? With bringing clarity to complex situations, hopefully giving people an opportunity to work on themselves, work on the business versus always being in the business and giving,
Mhm.
turn that mirror inwards a little bit. So I think for today, I just want to say a huge thanks to everybody for joining us. We probably got to let them get back to work though at some point, Lindy. So
Yeah.
thanks for
Yes, we do
joining for
too.
episode one. We're super excited to start building this space with you, one conversation at a time. So thank you so much for being a part of it.
For sure. I echo all of Ike's sentiments, and we are interested in your feedback. So if you have questions or topics you want us to cover, we'll be back next month with some more real talk. So reach out to us and let us know what you want us to cover. If you liked what you heard, though, make sure to subscribe to our podcast, share it with a colleague, send it to your team. And then, join us back next month for more real talk from the front lines of HME and leadership.